back in that bag again. Whoa, whoa, yeah, yeah. Hey. Back in that, yeah. Tell them to watch it. Now I ain't talking my pockets. Just know we ain't running out the way that we stock it. If I got it, you got it. If I call it, she slide and tell her to mop it. Yeah, I got that shit doing. Damn, she took that thing off and bring it around. Going at it till I'm on. Put that 90 in a hole, I'm beating it down. I'm back in that bag again. Whoa, whoa. Oh, say less. I'm back in that bag again. Yeah, yeah. Oh, say less. I'm back in that. Yeah. What you doing? Yeah. I'm back in that. Hey, where you going?
Hey, back in that bag again. To bring me around your friends. You know that I'm bagging them. Request me on Facebook, no, I ain't adding them. Positions I had her in. Hit from the back, that pussy was splattering. Calling her friend, tell her pull up. Word, let's make it a gathering. They loving
I said,
that
baby, nah, I'm Matic now, but she loving the splash again. I just be cashing in her buns, just like a wedding, I'm crashing in. Hundreds on hundreds, I'm moving and grooving. She wanna cut up, I'ma slash again. Buckets on buckets, I'm switching edition. Back in my back, on back again.
I feel like Aladdin, yeah. I'm on a
198th most listened to.
Damn, my
We're
body
moving
as soon as I walk in, bitches
down.
stalking.
Are we moving down? I thought it was up higher than that.
Well, how about this? Our viewership is up.
So
People are watching it.
Yeah, they're just not demanding
They're
it
just
anymore.
not demanding it on the Spotify or the Apple Podcast.
I heard it was the #1 voted podcast in the automotive space in Eau Claire.
1,000%. I voted.
Yeah,
I voted.
It was unanimous.
Raise your hand. Quick.
See?
Everybody voted. Yes. We won. Between Two Wrenches podcast, Cooper and Phil back. If you missed any of the previous episodes, you can listen to them on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any other place that podcasts are listened to. And of course, on our YouTube channel at Max-Bilt Off-Road. There's a shameless plug button here somewhere.
Do it.
I think
Shameless plug. That's on all the socials and YouTubes and whatnot.
Yeah, we can do that.
Ooh.
Yeah. And that one. We're everywhere.
Hey.
Everywhere you want to be. That's where we are. So we are a part, those of you who don't know, from Max-Bilt Off-Road, we are a part of TechNet Nation. And it is Brakes for Breasts time of year. September and October of each year, we team up with Brakes for Breasts and help raise money for the Cleveland Clinic and for their research on the cancer vaccine. October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and Phil loves to wear pink.
I do. It is my
doesn't matter what time
second
of year
favorite color.
It is.
To black. I don't know. I think if you're in the automotive space, you're supposed to wear black.
Right.
All of my T-shirts in my closet are black until I got into Jiu-Jitsu, and now I have colors. So
how does that section out? Because I was in rock radio. All the T-shirts are black.
Oh, yeah.
And then I got out of it. Now I have there's some fringe. I got a white shirt the other day, and I was like, I don't even know what to do with this.
I have one white T-shirt that we got from our Jiu-Jitsu club, and I mean, it's not completely white. I don't even know. I shouldn't own anything white.
You really should.
It's like white button-downs. That just doesn't work for me. Even I don't ever really wear those when I dress up anyways. I had to wear colored.
I went to a light up the night, and the dress code was all white.
Oh yeah, I saw that
head to toe, all white.
Yeah,
I'm not a guy that does white. I have a very Irish complexion. White doesn't go. I just wash out. I look like Casper with a beard. It's like mine. It's a little bit powder, but he had alopecia. So this is
that's
throws
true.
you off a little bit.
Yeah.
So I had white shirt, white tie, white pocket square, white suspenders, white pants. White pants, harder to find than you would think.
Yeah, like that. Did you have to buy that whole outfit?
I had the white shirt.
Oh, okay, all right. From the random.
Yeah, just I think buy a sport coat and get a free white shirt. I think that was when it came from.
JCPenney.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So R.I.P. JCP.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a thing anymore.
I don't think so either. I think you get everything off Amazon.
I like how we got into our fashion sense today.
I know.
Like
I'm really glad that we talked about that.
The 199th most listened to automotive podcast in the Apple podcast space.
Well, if we play our cards right, it'll be 200 before too long.
But we do have a special guest in the studio today. As we were talking about breast cancer awareness and Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we have a special guest.
Yes, our special guest is Sara Martinek, a friend of mine that I've actually run in circles with you for many more years than I knew about. And then it was 2 years ago, I started coming over to your basement and rolling around with a bunch of other sweaty men. And
way to not make that sound weird. What kind of outfit are you running over there, girl? I mean, whatever pays the bills, I guess.
They had a really nice bar, so I got to learn a lot about Scotch and how to change or strangle people. But so Sarah is and her husband Catlin are our instructors for our jiu-jitsu club. But Sarah has an interesting story around breast cancer that I had learned that it's been 9 years now. 9 years. And like, to be frank, you're not very old. And so you battled with it early on. And so I thought, what better way to bring some awareness to the Max-Bilt community and the TechNet and Breaks for Breast community than to bring you in here and hear a little bit about your story so I can learn more about it too.
So when I was 27, I just happened to be rolling over in bed one night, felt something and was like, that felt a little weird. You know, at 27, I had 2 kids at that point and did the whole breastfeeding thing. And so you're a little bit more aware of those things. And asked my husband, and he was like, yeah, you know, I kind of see something there too, or feel it. And let's just kind of keep an eye on it. Didn't really have much of a family history of breast cancer. And I had one aunt that had cancer when she was 26. So I was like,
Breast cancer?
breast cancer.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, it is possible. So the next day I decided, I'm like, well, let's just go double check. And I went in. Doctor also was just like, oh, you're so young. This isn't realistic. And, you know, you probably drink too much coffee. It's normal to get cysts. It's normal to get this, but let's just double check. And so then they did an ultrasound same day. And they were kind of same thing where this is really like not likely that this is going to be anything, but there's something in there that just makes me not comfortable. So let's do a biopsy. And then when you do the biopsy, you have to see a surgeon first. And I went and saw a surgeon. And because if you do have cancer, then they're the ones that give you the results and you start your path then with your treatment. And he was even just like, couldn't even feel the lump at that point. He's like, I think this is already resolved on its own. I just think that this was a cyst that took care of it. So I went in, had the biopsy. And
this is not to interrupt you, but a time period of days, weeks, months.
Yeah. So same day. So I went into the doctor the following day after I was diagnosed, or not diagnosed, the following day after I found my lump, and had the ultrasound the same day. And then the biopsy, I was a little bit stubborn at that point where I was like, oh, I'm not going to let this affect my life because I don't think that this is anything. And so I think I scheduled it for a week and a half, 2 weeks out.
Okay.
So still within a very short time period.
Yep.
Saw the surgeon same day as the biopsy. Didn't think that there was going to be anything there. Had that. Biopsy comes back 2 days later. And we knew right away because they won't tell you the results over the phone. He's like, you got to come in. You got to come in right now. And so we went in, and obviously it was breast cancer. And then from there, you just hit the ground running, where it was going for an MRI same day, full body scans, you know, all the tests. At my age, they're like, there's got to be some kind of genetic factor going on to have cancer this young. And so we did the genetic testing. Ultimately, I caught it very early. I had stage 1. So cancer's graded, so, you know, the obvious stage 1 through 4, but then you've also got grades of cancer, where grade 1 through 3 is how aggressive your cancer is growing. And so I had grade 3 cancer, which is the most aggressive, meaning, you know, it's multiplying, spreading as quick as it can. But I also had 3 separate cancers growing at the same time. So it wasn't just like my one cancer was spreading. I had 3 that had all started up and started spreading at the same time, and they were all grade 3. So
that means, just so I can understand in my head, so it was stage 1, thankfully, but like with the 3 different cancers at grade 3, like you're going to be beelining through the grades or the stages really quickly if you didn't catch it.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. So it's something they call multifocal. So I had stage 1 times 3 basically. And sometimes some doctors will still consider that stage 1. Some doctors will combine the sizes of the tumors and determine your stage. Either way, we knew I had to be in like right now.
Yeah.
And so we waited for they wanted to wait for the genetic testing first to kind of make a treatment plan. But based on the aggressiveness, they were just like, we need to get you in for surgery. And so within 2 weeks, I went in, had my double mastectomy, and genetic testing came back, and I do have the BRCA gene, which causes added risks for cancer as well.
Is that, I don't know when you what, so tell me about the BRCA gene, I guess. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to learn what I
I don't want to
ask
get like
the question.
too technical.
No,
so
but at the
let's-
same time, like I feel like I've heard. I think we've all, not to speak for our myriad of listeners, but we've heard a little bit about breast cancer at time and time again. That depends on your exposure to it, but like it's terms like that kind of get glossed over. But we have the opportunity. So
Yeah.
what is the BRCA gene and what's that all about?
Yeah, and the gene mutations are something that's really new. So when my aunt had cancer, they didn't know anything about the BRCA gene. So in the time from when she was quite a bit younger than my mom, and so like she was maybe 20 years older than me. So it hadn't been that long since she had cancer, and they didn't know about it. And so then for me, when I tested positive, then my family went back and found out that, it is a family thing. So the BRCA gene is a gene mutation. There's BRCA1, BRCA2. And what it is it's just this gene mutation causes you a higher risk of certain cancers. And it's an 87% chance of breast cancer in your lifetime.
Wow.
And then it's also like, so you go in and have a lumpectomy, you have a 60% chance of getting cancer a second time. And then it also increases your chances of ovarian cancer. So I think the average person's risk for average woman's risk for ovarian cancer is 12%. And I'm just throwing this out of the top of my head, and the BRCA gene increases it to like 45%.
Okay.
And which is really significant when you think of ovarian cancer. They call it a silent killer because a lot of times by the time they can find it, it's late stages. And so, so I found out I had that BRCA gene, really high risk of reoccurrence.
So you have that. So you are at a higher risk for ovarian cancer as well.
Mm-hmm.
But you probably check more often than others because of the information that you know.
Yeah. So where I'm at now, being 9 years out, even though most people would be on like a less of a regimen than I am for my scans, but I still have MRIs of my like breast MRIs every year, even though I had the double mastectomy. And then we do blood screening, which kind of tests my blood for cancer antigens. And then I also get ovarian scans every 6 months. I think that might be it. So
yeah, but I feel like, well, I can keep going off that, but I kind of pulled you away from after the double mastectomy. Then you said the results came back from the genealogy report. You do have the BRCA gene. So then what?
at that point, I think I hadn't quite had my surgery, but we were already on the plan to do the double mastectomy. Mm-hmm. So we went through with that. You have about a month after, you have to heal from the surgery. It's a pretty major surgery. And then I went into chemo. And so then I had chemo for about 6 months, finished up some surgeries. Once after my chemo, then they kind of do some scans and they find out once you're no evidence of disease and they figured out that they've got everything, then you get that remission status. And so then it was, some other surgeries. I was on like a maintenance treatment for 5 years afterwards. And then here I am.
Hoofda.
Yeah. I feel like I've been hearing a lot more, as you talked about the BRCA gene, a lot more women. And there was one, Morgan Wade is a female country music artist. I believe she got tested. She had the family, that particular gene, and did some more preemptive things. I think she had the double mastectomy. I mean, even before, any signs of anything. But I feel like I've heard that a lot with that gene testing that's out there, that there's a lot more women who are taking that into account. I mean, 87% chance is extremely high.
Yeah.
So in order to not kick the can down the road, if you will, that they're preemptively going in and taking precautionary measures. So just interesting that science has gotten to the point where it is, where it can be something that you can obviously utilize with that information, and the rest of your family can utilize because you already have it. But also the fact that there's ways out there to preemptively go after it and take care of things early on.
Is there a way to test for that? Like, do you have to be a certain age?
You don't have to be a certain age, but the medical field right now says that you have to be 18 to make that decision for yourself, because I don't think that they feel that it'll affect you before that, and they just want to make sure that children are really making that decision. I have family members. So once they tested for my gene, I think it's like a 2,500 gene mutations that they test for. But once they found my specific strain, then all of my family members only needed that one strain to test for, to know if they had it. And I had family members that went out and had the prophylactic surgery and, said, I'm either going to have cancer or have this surgery after having cancer and then have to go through chemo or all these other things, or I can just go do the surgery and maybe avoid having to do that. But then I also have family members that feel like it's a death sentence and don't want to know and just live blindly, do their annual exams, but just would prefer not to know. And you just got to respect people's decisions either way.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting. I want to talk about that initial doctor consultation that you had, because I've again heard stories. A friend of mine, his wife who passed away from breast cancer, went in, and not that the reaction was similar, but it seemed like, oh, this is probably nothing. That you probably have nothing to worry about. She actually ended up going in like 3 or 4 different times and saying, like, I really feel like this is something that we need to, be a little more cautious of. And it turned out when they did finally go in and do the biopsy that they were too late. She was already in stage 4. But it's just a weird, like, hey, it's gonna be fine, and then actually maybe it won't be.
Right.
Like,
right.
I feel like there should be a little more, like, priority should be, hey, like, if you have concerns and we have concerns, like, let's not, put the frosting on it a little bit. Let's, like, actually get in and figure out what it is. But I guess different tactics for different doctors.
Well, yeah, it's like, what are they worried at? It's like they want to pull the Band-Aid off slowly. Is that what you're saying?
You know what I know is that a lot of times they want you to wait 6 months. And I don't know what the reasoning is behind that, but a lot of times it's like, let's monitor 6 months.
Right.
In my situation, if we waited 6 months, I don't think I'd be sitting here talking to you guys, because once breast cancer moves beyond the breast, it's terminal. You can live a long time with with metastatic breast cancer, but it does become terminal at that point. And so I personally don't understand what the wait is, because I do feel like breast cancer is one of the easiest cancers to cure if you catch it early enough, but it's also one of the most, it has the highest morbidity.
Probably not mobility.
That one where you die,
Right.
Maybe that's more, not mobility. More
It's a
mortality.
really flexible one.
Yeah.
Mobility.
Yeah. Man, maybe these are dumb questions, but once you have the surgery, why do you have to go for chemo? If the cancer is localized, or is it not? Is it?
I think it's the chance that it could not be. So
Okay.
once it's in your body, they're saying, like, we're just gonna
Eradicate.
Yeah, because the thing with chemo is basically like, let's try and get as close to killing you by killing everything in your body without killing you before the cancer kills you. And so I think it's just like, let's just take that chance that it hasn't, especially with like really aggressive cells like that, they're going to really try and hit it as hard as they can.
Do you have? 9 years is a ways out. Do you have any? How does it affect your daily life? Because, like, I know you as a warrior, not just from beating breast cancer, but like in everything that you do, you're pretty tenacious. But like health wise, do you find many restrictions, or is like day to day status quo?
I think I had more restrictions with my surgeries and limiting myself more. I think I used to baby my skin, like my skin became really sensitive where it almost felt like a snake bite and numb feelings. And, just, I can't do that anymore, because I had over probably the first 5 years, I think I had 5 or 6 surgeries. And so there was just kind of that constant rehabilitation from the surgery. And, beyond that, I don't feel like I really have limitations. I feel like if anything, it makes me want to push myself beyond my limitations more. I think there's always that constant reminder, and I'm always going to be, going back to that, like, oh, it's probably nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always more cautious, because anytime the doctor's like, oh, it's probably nothing, it's like, well, I was told that once before and it was something.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so I definitely am way more heightened. It's something I have to talk to my kids about a lot, because any little thing, there's a lot of times where it's like, all right, we're taking you in for a scan. I just recently, been dislocating my rib in Jujitsu, and we rehabbed it for a while, and then eventually it was like, okay, we need to take you in for a bone scan and make sure this isn't metastatic cancer. And so with the kids, we have to talk about, yes, they're looking for cancer, but that doesn't mean that they think I have cancer. And so it's almost like looking at it from a positive, instead of at the beginning, those tests became really scary. Every time you're coming in for those tests, there's the possibility that you're going to get those negative results. Well, positive results, negative in the sense of we don't want it.
Yeah.
But now I look at it more as just like, it's that constant ability to just nope, you're good. Like, we did that. Now I know I'm good. And so now I know I'm good for a while. And
Yeah.
Well, it's it becomes part of your life, right? It's part of your healthcare regime is to know that, yeah, like these are the checks and balances that you have to go through.
right.
But even knowing that, like, I'm getting anxious, like hearing that story, and just like thinking about the, the phone call from on the other, oh, the doctor's going to be calling me at 10 o'clock to go over the results, that's got to be stressful, but I do get that it's something that you've adopted as kind of part of your life. We're going to move that around.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely won't lie and say, like, there is moments, there's those moments where when I go in for that test, that result's coming back, especially like metastatic bone cancer.
Yeah.
Bone cancer is when breast cancer metastasizes to the bones, your life expectancy isn't very long. And so it's like, this phone call could be very important, a really big deal. And so you do have those moments still, but I think with each victory, with each remission day, just really trying to focus on the positives.
Yeah.
And that's, having cancer is multifaceted because, yes, it's a negative thing, obviously, but there's a lot of silver linings that come out of it, where you find things to be thankful for, and you find a whole perspective on when to pick your battles, what's important, what's not important. And it's really easy to let the day-to-day life get you away from that perspective. And so I try and find like those wins as my moments to like bring myself back to that, to find that appreciation, to continue to live by those celebrations.
That's one thing I know about you guys as a couple, which I think we could probably touch on a little bit too, because it affects a family, but also at 26, 27, that's for most people, that's a young family. For you and Catlin, I mean, you guys were already together for 14 years.
Yeah, somewhere around there, 14, 15 years.
So, one thing I know about Catlin, and I've always, and you, that I think drew me to you guys as close friends was just the outlook that you guys have on life. But you could just tell that the things that people were figuring out in their mid 30s, you guys had a lifetime of lessons. You see the influx of, gratitude, this, and, live in the moment that I feel like, granted, social media is always skewed, but I feel like that's like a path of a life that people hit or have been hitting in their 30s, that it sounds like you chose to hit not by choice in your 20s, but the wisdom and the experience that you guys have as a couple is it's very it's encouraging for others. But what was it like in the relationship?
This is actually something that I thought about really hard when I was going through it. So, we had been together for quite a long time. We had a 2 and 4-year-old, so the kids were really young. And you often hear about people that it's like they find this, like they fall in love again. And it's like the hearts and flowers and romance. And, I remember at one point going through chemo and sitting back and like just kind of reflecting on where we were at. And I think the biggest thing with Catlin, and I could go on for days on the type of person that I think he is, but he never wavered in any way. Like our relationship, the way he treated me, the way our family ran was consistent, and it's always been consistent. He's always been that rock in every way. And so it's like, we didn't have that big fall all in love moment again because we didn't need to, because was always there. And we just always have been, we do good together, and I think that helped me through it. It helped our kids through it. And it just helped maintain that normal life. He was so respectful of the fact that I'm very headstrong and independent. And it was like the hardest thing was like not being able to pick the kids up, not being able to sweep my floor. I couldn't even wash my own hair, And so There's this moment where I was mowing the lawn on a riding lawnmower, and I got both kids on my lap, and Callan's standing there, and he took a picture of it, and you can see like he was actually wearing like a breast cancer shirt reflecting in the window. And I know it took everything in him to not stop me and want to come out and do it, but he knew me, and he knew I needed to be able to do that for myself. And he stood there and watched me do it the whole time, probably hating every second of it, but he still did it for me. And it's just those types of moments along the way that really kept, shaving my head, the intimacy of, Kaysen first shaved my head, just to kind of help him through that process. But then there was just, we shaved it down to like a couple inches, and then, within days it kind of started to get really patchy, and it was time to take it down to the skin. And there was, it is a very intimate moment to sit there and take that like last kind of shred, what felt like the last shred of dignity, away, where I'd already had my surgery. And this was what felt like the last kind of feeling of being a woman I had left in me. And, to be able to do that together, stand there together and continue to like unwaver, and just be there and support me through it. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's intense.
Yeah, that support system, that close-knit family support system, husband, wife, kids, clearly was one of the main things that helped you, get through that, the emotional side of it, outside of the medical side of it. Were there other, I don't want to say organizations or groups, maybe women that were going through the same process as you were, that also were a part of that healing process, at least the emotional part, where you had somebody maybe next to you in chemo that was, going through the same thing, and you got to kind of connect with them and tell your story. Were there people like that and things like that in your journey as well?
Interesting enough, at the time that I was diagnosed, I had a really hard time finding anybody that could relate to me that was close to my age, that was young. Even searching the internet, what can I expect? What, trying to find, when am I going to lose my hair? All these different things. And I couldn't find anything on anyone that was under their 50s or, somewhere in there. And so I don't know that I necessarily had people that could relate to me, but I had a lot of really great people in my life that, even though they couldn't relate, they sat with me and they were there and they supported me and they found ways to just be there. My mother-in-law was my mom, everybody was great with helping with the kids, but helping with the kids in a way that it was like, they're here with you, so you still feel present with them, not just like, let me just take your kids away and I'll watch them for you. Like, let me support you. My sister-in-law would come over and she would just pick up the broom and start sweeping. It wasn't like I had to ask for her to do it, because she knew how hard that would have been for me. And so she would just come over and talk to me and just start doing things while we were sitting there. And so it was those types of things that just kept life normal. Even work, at the time, my coworkers, I didn't have to work, like I was on restrictions. And so they're just like, you can be on disability or whatever else it needs to be. But for me, just the ability to go into work. And so they had to hire a temp to replace me, but they still would let me come in, just not because they needed me, but because they knew I needed to be there and feel like I was just living a normal life.
Yep. My head's spinning right now. I'd like to be like, but I think I'm just, it just had to be tough. And you impress me more and more.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Cooper, ask her a question.
I'm also cameraman. I get to be like,
right.
Camera 1 is now camera 2, which was camera 3. Tell me about the Jiu-Jitsu's tie into this, because you kind of talked about some of the self-restrictions that you put on yourself going through the healing process and getting back to good. Like, how has Jiu-Jitsu being a part of your life, a very intricate part of your life, helps you in the process of the overcoming it all? I mean, it seems like there's obvious, not even measurable strength that you have to be able to go through something like this, but to go through this and then also, unlike Phil wrestling with dudes in the basement, you're out there. I mean, I see pictures of you hoisting medals and doing things at Worlds and things like that. Like, how does this piece of your recovery help you?
So when I was going through treatment, we had our first gym. And so that was a whole thing where there was times where we would have to pack the whole family up to go to the gym together, because I couldn't if the kids were to get hurt, I couldn't pick them up because of my surgeries. And so we would just be there and Catlin would have to teach. And, I went through phases where I wanted to try jujitsu and I would a little bit, but my skin hurt too much and just kind of this different process. And then, so when we did it again this time, it's added a whole nother, there's so much mental when it comes to jujitsu, and there's so much, you're physically exerting yourself, but you're mentally breaking yourself through those processes. And so I think it's just continuing to break down those mental barriers and those walls and those anxieties. I've found with jujitsu that it's eliminated so much anxiety in my life that I had that probably came from cancer and that constant worry and those just needing to be, like, I'm a very organized person where I would like over organize myself. And I just find myself being able to pull back from some of those things since starting jujitsu and just kind of working through those barriers.
I couldn't agree. I mean, I've learned in my journey with that, and I've mentioned it before, but it's creating space from yourself and your problem, and then realizing that in any amount of space, you're okay. And that the only thing that matters is that second that you're in, because everything could change, and it might be somebody else's influence, but that's going to, I just have to be aware of my surroundings to be able to make whatever decisions I feel like are the best in the next moment. And when I'm anxious, that clouds that judgment. And so it's constant. This 4-dimensional game of chess is a constant reminder that to stay in the moment and that to control your emotions, but also deal with it. Deal with everything. It's man, I don't know.
That really makes me think too. I have a really love-hate on the topic of beating cancer, and you won. Right. Because I feel like it almost insinuates that the people that lose their battle to cancer lost or didn't fight as hard. And it's like when you go into a cancer treatment, you're basically submitting yourself, right? You're walking into this basic torture chamber to say, do whatever you can do to me. I don't have any control over this. I'm just willing to take it, and you get lucky if you beat cancer. It's not because you fought harder than the next person. And jiu-jitsu is so different in that way because you can, it is and it isn't, because you can prepare yourself as much as you want. You can fight as hard as you want, but that next person has maybe been fighting harder, or they just have more skills. And it's
sometimes they just win.
Yeah. And that doesn't take away anything from what you've done and what you've learned. And I think we talk about that a lot after we come home from competition is it's the wins within the losses. It's the ability to, the anxiousness that comes before competing, but still stepping on the mat and overcoming that anxiousness is the win more than it is the hand raise at the end.
Yeah. There is no losing. There's only learning. And I believe that, but also these things that I'm learning, again, in like a physical sense, echo, past therapy from traumas I've dealt with, or just life in general, or the sage words of wisdom from Confucius. There's a repeatability that this too shall pass, or whatever. And it's just another way to remind yourself that there is no definitives. There's no right and wrong. There's no win and lose. It just is. And it's how you react to that, whether it's cancer, whether it's to jiu-jitsu, whether it's to running, any of it. But that mental conditioning and realizing that you truly are in control of your next moves. You're not in control of your life. You're not in control of, I'm not in control of the weather, but I'm in control of my next moves and how I want to be prepared for my life, whatever that might be. And I think that that's invaluable. And
you're in control of your reactions and how you react to every situation.
And I think that that's the only thing that you're in control of.
Absolutely.
You're super in control of your organizational skills. I was like, well, she's super organized. Just like just like Phil is.
You don't need to lie.
You had talked about when you were going through your treatment and your surgeries and stuff, that there wasn't a network of people that were your age that had gone through similar things. Have people reached out to you who are, again, very young and having to deal with this, which people, I guess, anytime you think cancer, it's weird, is you think like there's a lot of focus on like childhood cancer with the places like St. Jude, and there's a lot of focus on that as kids, and then there's like the over 50 focus on cancer, but that weird in between, there isn't much. Have you had people reach out to you who maybe are younger that have got to go through the same processes you have and ask for advice?
I have. I've actually had, I get probably more than one handful, of people that since my experience, which has been, there's another silver lining is through my experience, I'm being able to share that with these people going through it and hopefully offer some insight, what to expect. And so the more I get the opportunity to talk about it, I will talk about it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not afraid to talk about anything when it comes to it, because I want to get nitty gritty. I want to get down to the dirty, and I want people to know what to expect and feel supported through it and know what's normal. And I've had a lot of people, I've talked at some different events, and I've had a lot of people come up to me and just, because of your story, I went and got checked, or because of this, I'm going to schedule my mammogram now, and that's what I want to see. And, you see a lot of controversy about the whole pink thing, and people get upset about the pink because they say, breast cancer isn't pink and frilly and all these things. But in my opinion is whatever draws the attention.
Right.
It doesn't matter what it is. And if that makes somebody feel girly again, or if that makes them want to support it and do it, let them have all the pink in the world.
Yep. Just whatever it is, whatever it needs to get the conversation started,
Yep. Talk about it. Know it. I think the biggest thing is like knowing those signs, because it's so much more than just that lump, and knowing that it can happen to younger people. Even for men, it's like you're in a long-term consensual relationship and you might be fingering around there at some point. Like, know what you're looking for and know what's, or just notice changes and don't be afraid to ask that when you see
don't ignore what you resist persists. It's another one of those isms, but it's the same. Like you can't ignore it away. Cancer doesn't care. It'll just keep coming. So if there's anything I'm learning, if there's any sort of inkling, just go be sure, And if the doctor says, well, I'm not too worried about it, let's wait 6 months, put your foot down.
Right.
Say, I don't want to wait.
I'm not much of a waiter.
Right.
I made it in today. I would like to
That's right.
this.
Yeah. You've got me in the office right now.
We're here. So, we're trying to fix things.
Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome, Sarah. Well, I can't thank you enough for taking time and coming down and making some awareness and, drawing some more attention to it. Thanks, Cooper.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else that you want to make sure that you've thought of that you want to add? I'm not trying to cut it short or anything, but at the same time,
No, I don't think so. I think, like I said, the biggest thing is watching for signs, catching the signs, being aware, because it is really important to catch it early when it comes to breast cancer. And it is hitting younger and younger people more and more. And so just know what you're looking for. Check it out.
Yeah. And I think remembering that it's 365 days out of the year to have awareness. I mean, obviously we, Breaks for Breast is dedicated September and October. But we talked to the lady behind Breaks for Breast, about how the search for a cure, the search for treatments is a 365-day a year process. And what the fundraising does at this juncture of the year, outside of raise awareness, is raise those funds so that machine can keep on moving forward. But when it comes to like detection and, it doesn't end at Halloween, it's a 365 days a year to be, to have awareness and to, get checked. Don't be scared now. Don't be scared.
Just get it done. Well, awesome. Well, Coop, I mean, this was an emotionally powerful conversation, and I'm realizing that it's just my head's spinning. There's a lot of empathy for what you had to go through, but I also know that you're stronger for it.
Yeah. The applause for the amount of strength. I mean, the emotion is there, and I'm sure the roller coaster that you were on emotionally was a wild one. But I think the gleamingness out of this is the strength that that came from going through that journey. The realization or the connections that you make with people going through it and your support team. I mean, there's a lot of strength, I think, to be taken from that. And that's the more of those stories that we can tell, I mean, gives the next person strength and to, put your foot down when you know the doctor's like, it's probably, you probably drink too much coffee. Listen, listen, sir,
Linda, listen.
sir, we need to have a conversation.
That's right.
Let's not talk about my addictions. Let's talk about what I got going on here. This is more important. But no, strength. I mean, that's what I took out of this is the strength of the journey, and then continuing strength with having to keep on going through your checklist, and then just crushing people in jiu-jitsu. I mean, that's
right. That's right.
I think too, just the constant reminder: keep living life. Like, don't get so weighed down on all the responsibilities. Like, always keep living life and appreciate the people around you. Tell them,
Absolutely. Yeah. Live in the moment. It's special.
Yeah,
they call it the precious present for a reason.
This man, you're full of isms today.
I mean, they just keep coming out.
I know. We should get you a pen and paper next time. We'll just have you start writing out your words of wisdom.
Right? Just things I've heard.
Dr. Phil.
Well, speaking of hearing, for those of you that are hearing and wanting to know how you can contribute and be a part, reach out to Max-Bilt on the socials. Call the shop, 715-210-0256. And not only do we have some opportunities for donations through doing break jobs, but also we've got fundraising pages at the shop where you can donate. We've got a tip jar here, but all of our money that we raise is going to the Cleveland Clinic's research for the breast cancer vaccine and constant research. So check us out. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, the link is on all of our social medias. You can go in and directly donate there if you don't need break work done.
Right.
If you just want to stop in and hang out with us and throw some cash in the tip jar, you can do that as well. Very easy to do. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for listening.
If I call it, she slide and tell her to mop it. Yeah, I got that shit doing. Damn, she took that thing off and bring it around. Going at it till I'm on. Put that 90 in a hole, I'm beating it down. I'm back in that bag again. Whoa, whoa. Oh, say less. I'm back in that bag again. Yeah, yeah. Oh, say less. I'm back in that. Yeah. What you doing? Yeah, yeah. I'm back in that. Hey.